Hi guys, it's Avalon and this is Nurse in the Garden channel. Thank you so much for coming back and watching. It has been a while since we've been on here. It is a new year, so happy new year. I hope everyone's holiday went really well. It's just been really crazy around here. So after the summer, my son started first grade and I just got really busy between the seasons changing and the sun setting earlier and just life. I haven't had a chance to even come on here and really give you guys a good update. So I have a life update and I also have a garden update. But really what this video is about today is what worked in 2022 and what didn't work. So life update. As I said, life got really busy and then I was gonna start doing some videos in December, and then I ended up getting a very small injury, but it was an injury enough. And I don't know if you guys could see, I have a scar on my forehead. It was a little bit of a golf incident. I took my son to mini golf and I stood a bit too close to him and I got injured. So it just took some time for me to get back to my regular self. And then also I just didn't like the way the bandages looked on my forehead. So I just didn't want to come on here and have bandages on my face. So that's why I'm here now, because I finally got the bandages off and it's healing, but now I have a scar. So it is what it is. Garden update. You guys followed along with me and you saw me plant and you saw me harvest and you saw like me take care of the garden and do a lot of cleanup. I felt like I was just doing a lot of maintenance and cleanup in the garden last year. And I reflected a lot in December and I'm reflecting now again, just thinking to myself, what could I have done better in 2022? And really what worked and what am I going to take with me to the 2023 season? So let's talk about what worked in 2022. So I have a note sheet here because my memory is not that good and I'm going to be looking down to remember what I wrote. So first thing, what worked? I grew what I ate. And that is a tip I got a lot from a lot of like the gardeners on YouTube and social media. It's really important to grow what you like to eat. So for me, like I see a lot of people growing kohlrabi and it's like this root thing and sometimes they pickle it or cook it. I'm not sure what they do with it, but I don't eat kohlrabi. It's a really cool and interesting looking plant, but I have no use for it. So for me to grow it and for it to take up space in my garden when I could be potentially growing something else, I chose not to. So I grew a lot of what I would eat. Not everything was a success as far as like what I grew, like to get a lot of harvest from it, but I grew what I enjoyed and I was able to enjoy what I harvested. Second, second thing that worked in 2022, location, right? Location's everything. So for me, this is my mother's house, my mother's backyard, but of course I live here as well. And I was able to garden right in the backyard. I had some containers right outside the back door. And then I took hostage of the back corner of the yard and I was able to do raised beds. My first year gardening was 2020. That's when I actually, like had containers. No, actually, yeah, that was the first year I had containers. 2021, I even expanded a little bit more, but 2022 is really when I put those raised beds back there. And it was overwhelming at first, but I think I got used to it and I really did learn a lot. So location, having your garden close to your house means you don't have to walk too far to get to it. Number two, you could look and see if there's any pests. You're constantly putting eyes on your garden to see, okay, do I need to water today? Am I watering too much? Are things dying? What should I harvest? What should I be pruning? So keeping your garden close to you, whether if it's containers or a raised bed, it's really important that it's not a far distance so you don't feel like it's a hassle trying to get to your garden. Number three, mulching. Now, don't sleep on mulching. And what is mulching, right? So mulching is basically putting a barrier over your soil so that your soil can retain more water. So here in New York, it does get pretty hot in the summer. It's pretty humid, but things dry out, right? So mulching, for me, I used like this coconut. If I can remember the exact name, I'll put it on the screen. I got it from Costco, if I'm not mistaken. And it was like in this big block, and I was able to like moisten it, and I was able to spread it all along my 3 beds that I had last year. I even had some remainders to put into my containers. And I remember the day I mulched was the day before it got really hot in New York. Like we were just about to get like a heat wave. And I was so thankful I did it that day. Like I was so tired, but I still went and I mulched my garden, and I couldn't be happier that I did it because it really worked. Throughout the summer, you know, of course I was still working, and I have my son, and we're busy, we're doing things. I went on vacation. That mulch saved my life, because even if I missed a day, or as I said, when I was on vacation, to say if like my parents didn't water my garden properly, I wasn't too worried because I know that the soil was retaining moisture. So as I said, I used like a coconut type mulch, like a coconut husk type. Anyway, as I said, I'm going to put the name on the screen, but you can use leaves. Some people use grass clippings. Use what works for you, use what you can get, but make sure you just do your research before using any sort of material to mulch your garden. 4, what worked was just having my son in the garden. So you guys have seen my son in like a couple of videos, and it's super fun just having him there. He loves being outside, he loves helping me, he loves harvesting, and I love teaching him something that wasn't necessarily taught to me, but I felt that was ingrained in me as far as gardening and touching the soil and harvesting and enjoying that part. He still talks about like, oh mommy, I can't wait to grow tomatoes, and you know, I'm thinking of having a little area for him where he can see things grow, and no, that's his little area. So we'll see what the spring brings and what I could do for him. But I really enjoyed having my child in the garden. I just found it to be a really nice bonding experience as well as a learning experience. Okay, so let's talk about what didn't work, right? Number 1, life. Listen guys, life is busy, life is tough. I think I knew what time I had to put aside to garden, but I don't think I knew until I was in it. And you know, it is hard work, especially as I said that I started these raised beds last year. So that means constructing the beds, which was just like a pre-made bed that came disassembled. You just reassemble it. Buying the soil, finding compost, planting everything. It was a lot of work to like start from scratch. I think this year wouldn't be that difficult as far as like, you know, having to settle the beds and things like that. But definitely last year was tough. As I said, I work 4 days a week, and I have 1 day off in the week, and then weekends are, you know, errands, spending time with my family, things like that. And I felt like I spent every free minute in the garden. So it is a little bit difficult to try to balance everything out and try to find time to rest, to do the things you have to do for life, and for managing the garden, which is like a hobby for me, you know, but I really did put time into it because I wanted to see results. I wanted a harvest. I wanted all the things. So as I said, life is busy. When the fall came, it was even worse. As I said, the sun set later. The sun was setting earlier, excuse me. And it was just tough for me to come home after work, like 5:30, the sun was set. The sun was down. So whatever I had in the garden, I really couldn't put eyes on it. When I left in the morning, it was dark. And I think I did put a video up of me planting a lot of the brassicas that I started, but we had a huge freeze here in New York sometime before Christmas, if I'm not mistaken. Everything died. I don't have frost fabric. I really didn't cover things very great at all. You guys saw that I winter sowed onions, and I actually should have brought in those containers, and everything died. I did put more seeds into those containers, but nothing has happened so far. So, you know, it's just difficult. And I think for 2023, I'm going to be more mindful of what the fall garden means to me and what that should look like. because I think I put pressure on myself, which then stressed me out a bit. So we'll see what this year brings. So number two is a combination of two different things: spacing and location. So location, a lot of the things I planted, it may have gotten a lot of shade. I do get a lot of shade in the backyard, and I do get a lot of sun at the same time. Now I feel like it's about maybe 80-90 sun to shade. That's what, like, the percentages I get back there. I do have a garage that's right next to the garden, and then I have a big tree, and that affects the amount of sun that area gets. Along with that is spacing. So I did end up planting things pretty close. I know I planted my peppers pretty close to each other. I can't figure out if it was the sun or if it was the spacing that decreased harvest on certain items. I'm thinking it's sun exposure, because now looking back, between my tomatillos, right, if you guys remember how much that took over the garden, and I think just general, like, placing plants in certain areas, I really didn't think it through, and I think after a while I just kind of got very haphazard. I planned everything out, but then I think I got overwhelmed, so I just planted everything, and then it ended up just being a little bit too close. Things were growing way bigger than I thought they were, and I don't think I put those things into consideration. So I do have to thank my 2023 garden over, and I have to really plan to make things successful. Number 3, labeling. I didn't label things great at all. My pepper bed, somehow I mislabeled, like, all my plants. There were some that I didn't label that bad, like my cayennes. I think I labeled that correctly, but there were a lot of things I didn't label correctly, and I think it's just because the tags got screwed up. Between that, I remember when I was planting the pepper bed, I got really tired, and I just kind of put the containers that I had my starts in on the, like, right next to the plant, and that got all screwed up. So labeling is really important. I want to be better with it. Even my tomatoes, I labeled things incorrect. I just put the tags in wrong places. So this year I am being way more strict with myself and making sure I'm labeling everything clearly. All right, so number 4, bugs. Okay, again, if you guys followed me last year, mosquitoes, right? You can't get away from them. I feel like they just attack me in the summer. No matter where I go, if there's mosquitoes, they're attacking me. I had to light a lot of, like, the citronella candles, if you guys remembered. A lot of the citronella sticks I had to light. I was wearing, like, long sleeves, long pants, just because I couldn't have any sort of skin exposed. Even my face, they were biting my face. It was just a little bit much. If you guys remember it, I also had hornworms. I think I had 2, and that was enough for me to freak out. What other bugs? Oh yeah, squash bugs I had. So my squash plants just died. Let me see. Oh yeah, cabbage worms. Early spring, I did kale, and cabbage worms were destroying them. So this year last year I bought the like the netting, like the cover. So this year I am prepared for them. I'm going to get kale. I'm going to get brassicas, because they're not about to come and ruin everything that I worked hard for. And also slugs. I had a ton of slugs in the fall when I first planted the brassicas. Slugs just came out of nowhere. But I did use Sluggo, and that worked really well. Like, they just disappeared. So at least I have a heads up about that, because that really did freak me out. And my son was back there with me. He's like, "Mommy, where are the slugs?" Like, I just was like picking them up and throwing them out. All right, so my camera cut off. I'm sorry guys, I have no idea where I ended in the last part there, but I know I was just talking about pests and how those can destroy your garden so quickly. So keeping an eye on your garden is super important. And I think I did a pretty good job with it, because I did spot those pests, but this time I know how to prevent them. All right guys, so thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this update, and I hope you can take some of my what not worked and what worked tips, and I hope to see you in the next video, and I will see you guys soon. Bye.